how to play against recreational players as the aggressor out of position. We covered in position in the last video, now we're going to cover out of position. Now the first line I want to show you guys here, actually two lines I want to show you guys here is, you guys are gonna see, let's see this first one. Actually, let me show you this one here. Yeah, this one is good. So this is a 500 now hand. Recreational players short stack here, about 50 blinds. Let me put this in blinds because it's better to visualize. 1 second. All right, now it's better. So recreational player opens the button with 47 big blinds deep. He opens to 2x, we 3-bet to 7 blinds. We flop top pair. We're gonna go and we're going to bet small, and then we're going to check call down. Keep this in mind, and you're going to see that it's going to be extremely, hugely profitable against recreational players. If you have watched my videos, you've probably seen this in my videos and on YouTube. So it's very straightforward. You make a hand post-flop, you bet small, you check call down. That's what you're supposed to do, and you're going to print money, right? So that's one example. This one here will be another example. Take a look at this one. Pocket eights against Ibimar. Recreational player here with 38 big blinds deep. We're gonna 3-bet him small here to 7 blinds. He calls. Flop jack 5-5. We're gonna bet quarter pot. He calls. Turn jacks, pairs the board. He bets half pot. We call. River queen of spades. You could think, oh, fucking terrible river. Not really though. Not really. He bets. We call. He's got king 9 of hearts. Okay, so that's what we're going to be doing in this line. Another one here, we got pocket jacks in the big blind. Carlos 101, recreational player here playing 45-25. You can see in the HUD up there. He opens min raise. We 3-bet him to 9 blinds. He calls. Flop ace a3 two-tone. We bet small, check call down. Bet small, check call down. It's very straightforward. We check. He bets half pot. We call. Queen jack off. Right, so this line is extremely profitable against recreational players, and the reason for this is two things. First, they massively overstab the turn. Second, they massively overbluff the river. So let me show you guys what this means with real data. So first, I'm going to show you guys how the river betting line for recreational players here is massively overbluffed. The line we're talking about is when they are the caller in position in 3-bet pots, and they go call, bet, bet, right? That's what we're interested here. This is the line, call, bet, bet. And then we can see there's a differentiation by sizing. So the one we're the most concerned with is when they call a small bet on the flop. So here in this column, you can see there are different flop sizes, flop 30, flop 50, flop 70. So the river bluffing frequencies are going to change depending on what is the sizing that you pick on the flop. Typically speaking, the smaller you bet on the flop, the bigger the bluffing frequency for your opponents on later streets, because they're continuing with a wider range, so they have more hands to potentially bluff. So we can see here that when they call a small bet on the flop, and then they bet turn and bet river, and here we have the columns for the specific river size, all of these lines are massively overbluffed. That's what light green means. For example, if they bet the river for a half pot sizing, they have 51% of bluffs, when balanced would be 25%. That's the pot odds you're laying to your opponent when you bet half pot. So that's a 26% over bluff when they bet half pot. When they bet 2/3 pot or 3/4 pot, that's a 24% over bluff, because balance would be 30%. Even pot size is incredibly over bluffed. Balance would be 33%, and recreational players have 56 bluffs in this line. So this line is incredibly over bluffed, okay? So that's why you have to check the turn to call down, because on the river, you're going to be able to capture an insane deviation, an insane profit from their overbluffing frequencies. All right, the second element to this is that, well, we're going to call down because of the overbluff of the river. We just saw that. But why don't we fast play our value hands on the turn, right? A lot of people say, oh, you should fast play against recreational players, just bet your value hands against them. That's not true. That's not true, because they massively overstab, so they put more money into the pot than they should. So take a look at this frequency here, this statistic here. How much do they bet the turn after calling a small flop bet? They bet the turn 51% of the time. This is a pretty significant deviation to solver. Let's take a look at how often solver stabs in the spot after floating a small flop bet. I have access to all of these numbers because I've ran aggregator reports in the entire game tree of No Limit Hold'em. So I have all of the statistics of how often solver bets, how often recreational players bet, and I can compare the two, right? So this is the number we're interested in here, how often the solver gives up or checks the turn, because 1 minus that is how often the solver stabs, right? So the solver on average, let's make that big here for you guys. Solver on average checks 58.4% of the time after floating a small flop bet and getting a check and facing a check on the turn. That means 41.6% stabbing frequency. We just saw that recreational players stab 51% of the time. So they stab 10% more than the solver, and pay attention that the solver frequency is considered that the solver has a appropriate pre-flop range, right? The solver calls with the GTO range pre-flop against 3-bet. Recreational players are calling way more than solver pre-flop. So you can have an idea, recreational players fold only 30% to 3-bets pre-flop. That means they have a much wider range than solver, and they still overstab by 10%. So that's a lot more money that they put into the pot, and that's why we slow play. They put more money in terms of frequency, in terms of how often they stab into the pot, and then once they do, you can call down because they're going to be over bluffing on the river. So that's why we're going to be playing these massively slow playing strategies. So that was one example. So here, so far, we saw situations where we checked with a marginal hand, but, well, let's see this one because this shows how wide you need to call in the spot, okay? You need to call down with ace highs in the spot. You need to call down with ace highs, particularly on low boards, okay? If it's not a low board, it's okay to fold ace highs. But on low boards, you should call even ace highs because it's going to be bluffed enough that it's going to be profitable. Okay, so bet small, check, call down. If you have enough equity to beat the bluffs, in this case on low boards we have with ace high, you just bet small, check, call down. This one is another example of how wide you can go with it against recreational players. Guys, don't be shy about calling them down, okay? You just saw the numbers. You can pause the video and see how many bluffs they have. Like, it's facts, it's data. I'm not making this up. I just built a 250 million hand database to be able to access those frequencies. So the numbers are there. You can't argue against the facts, okay? They massively overbluff these spots. So here we are, king, queen suited, 3-bet pot, small blind versus button, ace, jack, 6 board. We're gonna bet small, and then we're gonna check, call down. Bet small, check, call down. Oh, but it's a 9 of diamond river. They're gonna have, they're going to now have flushes and whatever. Guys, it's a recreational player's range, okay? What I don't want you guys to do is to think of recreationals as if they were regulars. Recreational players are not regulars. They're not playing, GTO ranges. They're not playing with a standard logic in their game plan. They can be very random at times, and they play very, very wide ranges. So here, we just bet small, check, call down. The guy has 6-4, we take down a huge pot. Okay, it's as simple as that. Once again, another example. Here you can see me 3-betting a hand that is probably not GTO to 3-bet, but I want to play 3-bet pots against recreationals. That's why I'm going to be expanding my 3-bet range. You can check out the charts against recreational players, and even if you want to expand further from those ranges on those charts, I think it's no problem at all because they're going to be making these insane mistakes. So I got ace-6 suited. I want to play a big pot against this guy. This guy 46-23, very wide recreational player. I want to play a lot of hands against him, and I want to play big pots against him, right? So a flop top pair, what I'm going to do, bet small, check, call down. Bet small, check, call down. That's what I'm going to do. Bet small, check, call down. He bets, I call. He's turning the 5 into a bluff. Another one. So I'm going to show lots of examples so you guys see that I've done this throughout my life so often the last 7 years. Bet small, check, call down. Jack on the turn, check, call down. I don't care. The river could have been the 9 of spades. I would still call. No, not of spades. I agreed to miss straight. So the queen of spades. I don't care. Queen of spades, king of spades, ace of spades. I don't care. Whatever. Check, call down. That's what we're supposed to do here. Look what the guy has. Ace-6 offsuit. The guy has ace-6 offsuit. He opens for 3x. He gets 3-bet. He calls. He calls 3-bet with ace-6 offsuit because that's what recreational players do. Then he floats my small flop bet. Like, this hand has no business floating this bet, but he's there calling, and then I check. He bets a turn, and he wants to bet the river. He wants to bluff me, but not gonna happen. I'm gonna bet small, check, call down. Bet small, check, call down. Another one for you guys, 7-6 suited. The guy opens hijack. We 3-bet. We flop top pair. You guys already know. Bet small, check, call down. Bet small, check, call down. Bet small, check, call down. He has jack 10 off. All right, then you're gonna ask, so does that mean I'm gonna win 100% of the time? Absolutely not. You saw the data, right? You saw the data that they have. Let me put that on screen again. They have call bet bet when they float small bet. They have somewhere between 51 to 56% bluffs. So you're still going to lose maybe 45% of the time. Okay, you're still losing maybe half the time. Okay, but you're making an insane profit with these plays, all right? And remember, we're supposed to do this not only with mediocre hands, but also with the nuts, okay, the very strong hands, we have to slow play all of those showdown value hands, okay? It doesn't matter if it's a medium hand or it's a very strong hand, you have to slow play the turn. That's how you're going to make the most money against these players. All right, so take a look at this one. I got ace queen suited from the small blind. Undergun players, 61 big blinds opening 3x. So this is a good way for you to identify recreational players. The guy's short stack, but not only that, he opens undergun for 3x size, which is a size that regulars almost never use. So you can assign almost 100% probability of this guy being a recreational player. So we 3-bet to 9.2 big blinds. Then the gun player calls, flop 7-5 deuce rainbow. We bet 40% pot or something like that. Villain calls. Turn is a queen, which is a card that I could just go for value, right? I could bet two streets, get stacks in, get all the money in. But no, that's not what I'm going to do. I'm going to check here. I'm going to wait for the guy to stab, and I'm going to check, call down. Oh, shouldn't we just raise his small bound of turn? No, we shouldn't raise, because he's going to be putting lots of money with air by the river. Remember, from the principles of exploiting recreational players, we should get a lot of value from the weakest portion of their ranges, not the bluff catchers. We're gonna call here, the river's gonna come, whatever, and we're going to make the call because that's what we do in this line. So river comes, king of spades, we check, villain bets, we call, he's got ace jack suited. The second line we're going to take advantage against recreational players when playing as the aggressor at opposition is a very similar line. The only difference is that instead of betting and getting called on the flop, we're going to get raised and then we're going to call down, right? So the logic is the same. This line is going to be massively overbluffed by recreationals, so we bet small. If we get raised, we just call down. Okay, we have no other option other than call him down here. He bets half, we call. River deuce of diamonds completes the flush, I don't care. He jams, we call. He's got king queen suited. We got pocket nines from the big blind. Recreational blend, the cutoff opens. We want to play 3-bet pot here. We could call. Probably solver calls more than 3 bets here in these positions, but we want to play 3-bet pots against recreations. We want to play big pots against them, especially with a decent hand like pocket nines. So a 3-bet, he calls. Flop comes jack a3 two-tone, probably a board where you should size up something like half pot, 2/3, whatever. Not many small bets on this board, but we're gonna go small. We bet small and call down. He raises us, we call, and then we call down. That's what we do. Turn 5, he bets, we call. River 7. We check, he bets, we call. He's got king queen off. Even tight recreational players can show up with bluffs in this line. Like, take a look at this guy. He's playing 24-17, and then we're going to do our plan here. With 3-bet or pocket jacks, he calls. Flop 9-8 two-tone. We're going to bet small, and then we're going to call down. He raises a little bit lower than 3x. We call. Turn 5 of spades. Not so great. Doesn't matter. We call. River, we bink the nut, so that's nice. We check, he jams, we call, he's got pocket 3s. This one I have shown in my YouTube channel once. Pocket jacks, ace 7-3. We bet small. The guy raises, he clicks in fact. We're gonna call. Turn 6, we check, he bets, we call. River king, we check, he bets. Almost a jam, but not quite. We call, he's got queen 10 off. So these two lines are basically free money lines. They're free money. Like when you see recreational player taking these lines, you just close your eyes, check, and call down. Well, don't close your eyes because then you might miss the call button, but you get what I'm saying here. You just call down because it's free money, okay? Does it mean you're gonna win 100% of the time? Absolutely not. You will lose maybe half the time, around half the time, okay? Maybe even less than that, 45%. But you still lose. However, you're winning much more often than you should. So here, the guy's betting 52 into 76. He's giving me 29% pot odds. So if I win 29%, I break even. If I win more than 21% of the time, I'm making money with this call. And guess what? I'm winning 52% of the time with this call, which is really, really, really profitable. I'm talking about 30, 40 big blinds per hand here. Okay, so this is really, really, really profitable spot, and you should always take these calling lines, all right? Another very powerful line that can take against recreational players in 3-bet pots out of position as the aggressor is check the flop and then bet turn, bet river. Okay, this line is very powerful because recreational players are going to have a very wide range calling it against your pre-flop 3-bet, and then they're going to be betting very linearly once you check to them. What that means is that their checking range is garbage, and they have a lot of garbage from calling pre-flop. Therefore, being aggressive in this line is going to be insanely profitable for you. Okay, so here's an example where I 3-bet king 10 suited against this recreational player on the button. I'm going to be checking the flop here. I recommend you guys play very high frequency check, if not pure check, with all of your unpaired hands against recreational players. There are some exceptions. Perhaps low board, you want to go for bad check, call down with ace highs, as I showed you an ace queen hand right before in this video. So there are still room for betting like ace highs in some spots. But the air hands, they're not going to perform all that well to the betting lines because recreational players don't fold too much, to flopsy bets at least, and they raise a ton. So your best bet is to go for the check on the flop and then bet the turn, bet the river. That's what I like to do. So you can see it here. I go for the check on the flop, recreational player checks behind. Turn comes bananas, deuce of hearts. I'm going to bet small here. And even if he calls, I'm going to bet the river and get him to fold. Okay, so here you have two options. You can bet big turn to bet big river, or you can bet small turn to bet big river. I tend to prefer bet small turn to bet big river because on the turn, I'm going to be getting lots of folds from just random hands they shouldn't have and that they're going to have immediate fold equity. And then I'm making it small enough so that they'll still be continuing wide, which means that I'm still going to have quite a lot of fold equity by the river. So I like to take this line. It's a very effective line, as you're going to be able to see in the examples. Here you have another example. Tight recreational player this time. The guy's playing only 2013, so that's weird. But still very exploitable here. We're going to 3-bet him. Flop, we're going to go for the check. Ace 4 deuce mono. Once he checks, what do? Small bet into river big bet. Small turn bet into river big bet. We capitalize on their very weak range by getting out of fold on the turn. And then once he calls, we still have fold equity by the river. So we fire that big bet. He's going to fold. That's a sweet, very, very sweet line for you guys to take. Here you can see me taking a variation of that line. Instead of betting small on the turn, I went for the big bet. So you can see here, 3-betting king queen off against short stack pillar 83. He calls. Flop 6-4-5. I'm not going to be betting high cards here. I'm just not going to get enough fold equity. Villain's going to raise me. So I'm just going to check. He checks back. Once he does, I'm going to bomb it to his range. His range is really weak here. Once he did not bet into this flop, recreational players really like to fast play their strong hands on dry boards. Even on monotone boards, you can see them betting pot with the sap because, you know, they don't want to see another card. So when they check on a 6-5-4 texture, two-tone, it's a very weak range. So what do? We put a lot of pressure. We bet big here. He calls. But we're still going to fire here. We're going to jam the river and he's going to fold. Let me show you guys one hand that didn't work so that you don't think that this is going to be, so that you're going to win every single time. It's not going to happen. So here, king queen off, we 3-bet, a low board, not going to get fold equity, going to get raised. I'm going to check. He checks back. Now this time I decided to go for the small bet. Mainly just getting him to fold random queen highs, jack highs, etc. He's going to call me with some pairs and some ace highs. Once he calls river, I want to get him to fold those ace highs. So I bet an amount that I think he's going to fold those hands. But unfortunately this time he has 6-5 and he calls. So does it mean they're going to win all the time? Absolutely not. But still, it's a very, very profitable line to take. Another one for the books here. Ace queen off from a small blind. Villain's going to open cutoff. We're going to 3-bet. He calls. Low board here. We check. Turn 8 of spades. We bet small. River king. We bet large, and he folds. So this line, extremely profitable, extremely easy to execute, and that's what I want to bring with you guys with this framework. It's a very easy to implement framework, and yet it's extremely, extremely profitable because you're capitalizing on all of these major flaws and imbalances in the recreational player's range. If you have a strong hand, bet small, check, call down. Not even a very strong hand, just a reasonable enough hand that you can beat their bluffs. Bet small, check, call down. If you don't have that, check the flop and be aggressive on the turns and rivers. If you captured the message from these two lines, or these actually 3 lines that we saw, but mainly 2 different ways of playing the 2 distinct parts of your range, the hands with showdown value, the hands without, then you cover 95% of what you need to do in 3-bet pots out of position against recs. Now in the next video, we're going to talk about how to play as the caller out of position against recreational players. See you there.